Hi everyone. Today I would like to talk to you about the recent theme for the Jehovah's Witness convention. In case you do not know, every year the Jehovah's Witness organization has a worldwide convention or multiple conventions throughout the summer, and they have a theme that's across the world. And this year's theme, 2019, is Love Never Fails. And when I found out about this theme, I thought it was quite ironic considering that the love this organization provides is strictly conditional. It's based on your performance and your loyalty to this organization. They will love you as long as you do everything they require of you. And the moment that you question or you start to slip in your hours, you don't do as much as you were doing, you don't tithe as much as you were tithing, you're not in service as much as you were doing, the door-to-door preaching work. As soon as you start to slip in these different areas as a member, you will notice that their love is conditional. And if you are coming across this video because you're studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, I would encourage you to look at the multitude of videos online from ex-members talking about their experiences with this organization, because their love is conditional. Now, today I'm going to share with you an experience that I've had, two, actually. In case you don't know, I have never been a Jehovah's Witness. I started talking to them about 9 years ago, only because everywhere I went at the time, it seemed like I was coming across their path. And so that's a little bit about myself and how I started to learn about this group. About, I would say, 5 years ago, I came across some Jehovah's Witnesses in my neighborhood, and I asked this girl a question who was around the same age as me about what good news should be preached door to door. And I had actually approached them with old Watchtower magazines, planning to show them false prophecies, and the conversation somehow got deterred to the good news. And she said, you know what, how about I have a Bible study with you? And so we ended up having, I don't remember how many exactly, but she had also invited me to the Kingdom Hall that following Sunday. And at the time I had never been to a Kingdom Hall. So I took the opportunity to go, and I actually went multiple weeks in a row, and along the same time she would come over to my house with an older woman or her brother, and she was trying to get me to do a book study, and that's what does the Bible really teach. And again, this is another red flag within this organization. They're not going to do a Bible study with you. They're not going to say, hey, let's study the book of Romans or John or Isaiah. Those are the type of Bible studies I have. They're going to say, let's go into this book that this organization made, and all of our literature is actually produced by this organization. We don't read anything outside of this organization. And so anyways, I met with them a number of different times. I went to the Kingdom Hall, and her mother told me at one point that I've never seen my daughter study the way that she's studying right now. And the reason for that is because I was asking her questions that the Watchtower didn't have the answer to. And at the end of the day, the answer was the message that they were preaching was wrong. They were preaching a false gospel. And so she was like digging into all of her literature, trying to find an answer for me. A Watchtower answer that, would satisfy me and then make me get into this book, what does the Bible really teach? But unfortunately, the purpose of those questions was to get her to doubt and plant seeds. Towards the end of our studies, she ended up calling me and telling me that she couldn't meet with me any longer because she was having car issues. And I really think that it was just because I wasn't progressing. She was a pioneer. She was, she had this part-time job, but her whole entire life was doing Jehovah's Witness preaching work. That was her whole life. And at the time, an ex-Jehovah Witness told me, yeah, it seems like she's just cutting you off. It doesn't really make sense. Since she's a pioneer, it's top priority to do these Bible studies. I'm sure another member of the congregation would have, lent their car to her. And then, shortly after that, was the following convention. And at that convention, I was concerned that this person was going to see me, even though they had cut off the study with me. I still was kind of concerned about like how that would play out. And luckily, when I went out there, I had enough friends willing to hold signs around the stadium. And I believe this is back when the Spanish convention and the English convention was combined at Qualcomm Stadium. So it was just this massive convention. I also had 18 people out there surrounding the stadium, to the point where I didn't really have to hold a sign. And I did speak to the people online. I put up videos. And I had this hat on, I straightened my hair, and I had these big glasses on. And I was just trying to blend in, not really stand out. And so what actually ended up happening the last day of the convention, I was walking around the stadium, on the outside of the stadium, and one of my friends had to go to their car for something and asked me to take their spot. And so I ended up taking their spot, and I sat up on top of this planter, and I'm holding a sign, and I see a lady who was at the Kingdom Hall, who I had met several times, stare at me. She was like, this person looks familiar. And she actually walked right up to me, and she was about 2 feet away from me, and she was just looking at me intently and didn't say anything. And I was looking at her, and I didn't say anything. So this Jehovah's Witness is staring at me intently. And the reason was because my hair wasn't curly, it was straight. I had these big glasses on, I had this hat on. And she was obviously trying to figure out, if I was who I was. And then she leaves, goes over to this other Jehovah's Witness who had been over my house, who I also met at the Kingdom Hall. And they start talking, and then that particular Jehovah's Witness gets out her cell phone and does a video scan of me. And mind you, she's about 25 feet away. And even at that point, I thought, it's still not really that noticeable. I am who I am. My cover hasn't been blown. And then I see this Jehovah's Witness look down at her phone, look at the other Jehovah's Witness and say, she's studying with sister so-and-so. She's an apostate. And at that moment I realized, my cover's blown. I jump down from the planter, take off my hat, take off my glasses. I walk up to them and I say, hey, I'm not an apostate, actually. I'm just a Christian. But at that point, they kind of got extremely upset at me. And the one with the cell phone started yelling at me, like, how could you, come to our Kingdom Hall? How could you do this? You're actually an apostate. She's yelling at me. And the other Jehovah's Witness, the one who originally came up to me and stared at me intently, is standing between us. And she's like, don't talk to her. Don't talk to her. She's an apostate. Don't talk to her. So I have one yelling at me, one going like this. And I'm trying to just explain to them my side, how I see things. Hey, I just care about you. I want you to kind of think about, question your organization, things that they're teaching you aren't true. How do you even say all that when you have two women yelling? And one of the Jehovah's Witnesses had this cooler with wheels on it. So she's trying to navigate this cooler and trying to get away from me. And the other one's like, get away from her, let's just go. And they're yelling. And they they left. They went into the parking lot and went into their cars, and I was standing there like, what just happened here? I thought I would have at least, an opportunity to explain and have a conversation. And one of the reasons why I never did a video on this is because I think I was just so shocked that I couldn't really process it. And I did write about it, and I can put the link of my Kingdom Hall experience on my blog, which I don't really update on a regular basis. And so why do I bring this up? I bring this up because we're talking about love. We're talking about an organization whose love is conditional, who their members, they're trained where they will react a certain way when you disagree with them, or when they find out that you're opposed to their God. Watchtower. Watchtower is their God. Jehovah is not their God. They serve Watchtower. And so I share that with you just because of their lack of love. As a Christian, I get into conversations with people who disagree with me all the time. Recently, I was out in the neighborhood putting my church information on doors, and I came across this man who was outside of his house, and we got into a conversation. He disagreed that the Old Testament was scripture. He believed that the New Testament was scripture, but not the Old Testament. And we got into a conversation about that. I asked him a couple questions, why does he believe what he believes? And it ended up being a very pleasant conversation. At the end, I said, well, why don't you, if you're interested in coming to our church, you can come to our church. And he actually showed up the next day. But it wasn't this like, well, you're opposed to what I believe, so I'm moving on to the next person. That's not the type of attitude true Christians should have. And unfortunately, that's the attitude Jehovah's Witnesses have. It's, if you do not agree with us to the T, we will cut you off. And there is no room for any gray area. What is love? 1 Corinthians 13 talks about love, and it defines love for us here. 1 Corinthians 13:1. If I speak with the tongues of men and angels but do not have love, I have become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and know all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. And if I give all my possessions to feed the poor, and I surrender my body to be burned, but do not have love, it profits me nothing. If I'm part of an organization that has published 220 million Bible publications and goes door to door, and we're all in unity because we believe the same thing, but do not have love, I am nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, and is not jealous. Love does not brag, and is not arrogant, does not act unbecomingly. It does not seek its own, is not provoked, does not take into account a wrong suffered, does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. And this organization, if you're studying with this organization, they will not endure with you, bear with you, and believe you. Believe you in the sense of, hey, if you have questions, they're automatically going to assume the worst. And then verse 8 says, love never fails. True love endures with one another. And so if you are thinking about joining this organization or being baptized, please stop. Please question that. Please take a minute and step back and research it, because what you are subjecting yourself to for the rest of your life is an organization that will only love you if you obey them. That same year, where I got yelled at by the Jehovah's Witnesses. I was going to the Kingdom Hall, and in case you don't know, they do their studies out of magazines, and it's different than the magazines you get out to the public. And you can go online now and see them and get them and read them if you want to. And there was a theme about being in Jehovah's Valley of Protection. And I remember using that and speaking that to the people when the doors were down, and saying, like, that Valley of Protection, that's just their way of saying, please obey us and listen to all the things that we say, and, you know, you'll be fine. That has nothing to do with having a continuous relationship with God. And I remember speaking that to the people, and a guy smirked, and I've gotten this before, where it's like people who are in the congregation, or sorry, who are in line to the convention, they are doubting, and they do agree, and there's this look that they give where it's like, yeah, I'm with you, but they can't say anything, because their love, the love that JW.org, Watchtower, provides, is completely 100% based off performance. And so there's a fear in that, and a lot of people stay not only in the Jehovah's Witness religion, but other cults as well, whether it's, you know, Scientology or Mormonism. People do not want to lose their relationship with their family members, so there's this fear involved. And 1 John 4:18 says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves punishment, and the one who fears is not perfected in love. So this love that the organization provides is completely and 100% based off your loyalty to the organization. And this is what instills fear into their members. And this is a big part of the reason why they react the way they do. However it is, I think if you walk up to them, how they shut down a lot of times, or they might want to say they're calling security, because there's a fear that has been instilled in them by their leaders. And that's what I think, and that's what keeps me having compassion and not, you know, thinking the worst of them. Today, I was out at a farmer's market, and I approached two Jehovah's Witnesses who, their signs were actually in Japanese, and it turned out the wife was from Japan, the husband is also Japanese, but he was born and raised here. And I spoke to them about their convention, and I asked them, hey, can I share a verse with you? The same chapter, but verse 7. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God, and everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. And my question was, are you born of God? Jesus says that everyone must be born again. Here it says that love flows from being born of God, and that's a change in nature that occurs within you, where only the Holy Spirit can change your heart to love others and obey Him. This experience, they were very pleasant people, very nice. They did not yell at me or anything like that. But what the gentleman did was he went to JW.org and read me an article. And I actually said at one point, you know, I want to hear your own thoughts. You keep showing an article to me or reading an article to me and telling me to go to the website. I just want to know your own thoughts. And he said, well, our thoughts are in line with the website. And so this is this type of organization where they think that this is some sort of beautiful thing where they're all in unity, which is, it's a false unity. But there's also a fear. I can't say something if it goes against JW.org. I can't say something if it's going to go against my leaders. And so he didn't really know how to respond to the questions I was asking. So he's reading me an article. Towards the end, he was just on his phone, and I think he was just trying to find an answer for me. And he was a kind gentleman, and his wife was asking different questions, which it seemed like we could have just gone from one topic to another. The reason I share this with you is that it's so interesting how it's gotten to the point where they just read an article to you, or they'll tell you, go to the website. I'm not here to answer you. I'm here for the Spanish community. I'm here for the deaf community, or we're not really here to answer questions. But you can go to the website. Go on that website. But this guy went the extra mile and pulled up an article, but he would only read the website. And at one point I told him, at one point I told him, you're not Bible based. You didn't even go to the Bible. You went right to the website. How does that work, you know? And then at another point, he shared Revelation 7 with me and Revelation 14 that talked about the 144,000. I said, it doesn't say anything about being born again there. What you're doing is inserting your ideas from this article into the Bible instead of just letting Jesus' words speak for himself. Let Jesus speak for himself. But bringing it back to fear, there is a fear there of saying the wrong thing. And so they have to be in line with jw.org. But true love casts out fear. And there's no fear in love. So I think that's all I have to share with you today. You know, there are so many areas that we can discuss when we talk about Jehovah's Witnesses and love, and I would love to hear your experiences with the organization. I think that that's really helpful in gaining insight and also warning others, because people read the YouTube comments. It happens. So many people are reading and watching and searching, and so if you have anything to share, please share it. I'd love to hear it. And I hope you have a great day, and I hope you have a great Mother's Day, or if I post this after Mother's Day, I hope you have had a great Mother's Day. That's it. But do you see kind of where I'm confused though? Like why, you know, when I go to jw.org, it talks about 144,000 being born again. And then even the article that you just read, it said those who are born again are adopted. So you're not adopted, right?
Okay. There's a couple more things. Misconceptions about being born again.
Well, I just want to know your own thoughts, not, you know, what the website says. Can you share your own thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are in harmony with what it says in.
Because you're just reading. I can go online and read the article.
But that's exactly
the point.
The point is that
to know about, because for our activity, it's not, you know, putting our thoughts or our understanding. It is more important for us to, you know, what the Bible teaches, and then what understanding.
Yeah.
But you're not going to the Bible. You're going to a website.
Well,
you're reading an article.
It's based on the scriptures.
But
so
you're going to jw.org and reading an article.
That's not
the Bible.